My husband fell in love with a girl he met while gaming online. I forgave him once, but now he wants an open marriage. Hello, I've been happily married to my husband for 4 years, and we've been together for 12. After overcoming numerous financial hurdles, we finally bought our dream home and are now planning to start a family. However, a few months ago, my husband fell ill and had to take a break from work. During this time, he immersed himself in an online game and began participating in weekly gaming sessions with a group of players. Among them was a woman, about 30 years old. Unfortunately, as they spent more time together, he developed feelings for her. He was distraught when he confessed to me about a month ago, revealing that his feelings had deepened gradually and he hadn't realized the extent until it was too late. Their friendship had progressed to private texting and eventually to one-on-one calls. At one point, she confessed her love for him, and he acknowledged feeling the same, though he told her a relationship was impossible. Despite their attempts to remain just friends, they continued to express affection towards each other, escalating to sexting. She even suggested they meet in person, but he declined. After confessing everything to me, he repeatedly apologized, admitting he was torn, but affirming that I was his ultimate choice, no matter what. Overwhelmed and hurt, I spent a night at a friend's house to clear my thoughts. I chose to forgive him, recognizing his genuine remorse and desire to resolve our issues. I appreciated his honesty and willingness to discuss our relationship's underlying problems openly. We engaged in lengthy discussions about our feelings and how we could strengthen our bond. While I accepted that he could have feelings for someone else, I expressed my dissatisfaction with how he managed the situation. He agreed with my concerns, yet just yesterday, he brought up the possibility of an open marriage. He confessed that while he still envisions a future with me, including having children, he cannot dismiss his feelings for her. He proposed we explore polyamory, allowing both of us to see other people within clearly defined boundaries and open communication while remaining committed to each other. Honestly, the suggestion initially made me very uncomfortable. Although we have friends who practice polyamory, and I'm somewhat familiar with the concept, I never imagined myself in such a relationship. It's not that I'm opposed to it. The idea had simply never occurred to me. I'm still processing everything. It's a lot to consider. I'd appreciate any insights or opinions you might have on this. Thank you. Update 1. First, I apologize for not responding to all your comments earlier. I'm grateful for them. They've helped me confront some hard but necessary truths about our situation. After taking some time to reflect and engaging in several in-depth discussions with my husband, I decided it was time to confront him before making any final decisions. To address some questions, the other woman did express a desire to meet him, but they never did, partly because he refused, but also because she lives quite far away. I took precautions and got tested for STDs. Thankfully, I'm clean. As for our friends who practice polyamory, it turns out they were the ones who suggested he consider this path. I've temporarily ceased communication with them to focus on the more pressing issue at hand. I expressed to my husband how deeply his actions wounded me, and while I valued his honesty about the affair, it still constituted infidelity. I relayed your feedback that transitioning to polyamory seemed like an after-the-fact endorsement of his affair. Polyamory should be founded on mutual trust and communication, elements he had already compromised. This realization devastated him. He admitted that deep down he knew this, but had been unwilling to confront it, neither with me nor within himself. Our conversation was intense. We both yelled and cried profoundly. Ultimately, he confessed that his desire to open our marriage was driven by selfish motives. He's profoundly apologetic. He has severed contact with her, granted me full access to his digital life, and is now eager to pursue counseling to mend our relationship and marriage. Since then, he's been particularly affectionate, though he admits that sometimes his actions are driven by guilt rather than solely by love. Now, I'm contemplating whether I also want to make it work, or am I just succumbing to the sunk cost fallacy? I'm uncertain. Our first counseling session is scheduled for 2 months from now, the earliest appointment available, and my feelings fluctuate daily. Just yesterday, I considered leaving, yet today, I feel our long-standing bond might be worth another chance. We share deep understanding, common interests, and have built a significant life together. He supported me through challenging times and has taken full responsibility for his actions. The thought of starting over, finding a new place, entering the dating scene after 12 years feels daunting. Am I too old for such a restart? Yet I recognize this could be a form of denial. The quality of the past years notwithstanding, things will never be the same. Even if he regains my trust and I forgive him, the memories of what transpired will linger. Is his remorse sincere, or is it simply too late? Being empathetic doesn't negate the fact that his recent presence doesn't erase the past. Am I leaning towards staying not because I believe in us, but because I lack the fortitude to pursue a divorce, or because it seems like the path of least resistance, a sort of codependency? I'm more lost now than ever, plagued by sleepless nights and a loss of appetite, finding little joy in life. I've scheduled a session with a psychologist for myself to navigate through these tumultuous emotions. I apologize for rambling, but at this juncture, I know the decision rests solely with me on what feels right and sustainable. The decision rests solely with me, yet the emotional turmoil I'm experiencing makes it incredibly challenging to even contemplate that choice. I plan to attend both therapy sessions to hopefully gain clear insight into my next steps. Updates may be sparse as I navigate through this, and I appreciate your patience and understanding. I'm profoundly grateful for all the support, and I'm sending lots of love back to everyone. Edit. There are a few details I initially omitted, which I now realize are crucial. He cut off contact with her not solely out of respect for our marriage, but because once he disclosed his marital intentions of wanting to remain with both of us, she chose to end things and distance herself. Since then, my husband has exhibited moments of sadness and anger, akin to withdrawal symptoms, yet he thankfully does not place the blame on me. Reflecting on our marriage pre-crisis, it may sound naive, but it was my first and only romantic relationship. We were incredibly close, maturing into adulthood together, always able to discuss anything and deeply understand each other. We shared the same values and interests. What changed, I believe, is that we fell into a routine and he began seeking excitement elsewhere. During one heated discussion, he confessed to being addicted to the attention she gave him and felt that I wasn't showing enough affection. Although he suggested that this might have been a contributing factor, it doesn't excuse his actions. I was caring for him while he was ill, which makes his justifications hard to accept. This situation forces me to question if I was truly a good partner, even though I recognize that his actions are not my fault. Thank you again for your ongoing support. It means a great deal and genuinely aids in my coping process. Update 2. I hope this finds you well. A lot has transpired since my last update. To summarize briefly, you can visit my profile for more details. What unfolded was deeply unpleasant. My soon-to-be ex-husband had an emotional online affair and attempted to normalize it by proposing an open marriage, suggesting we both pursue side relationships. I refused his plea for reconciliation, and shortly thereafter, his affair partner ended things with him. Despite agreeing to try to reconcile, I was simultaneously preparing for my departure. We both engaged in individual therapy and even separated temporarily 3 times. Each return proved disastrous. His desperation was palpable. He violated my boundaries, resorted to love bombing, played the victim, and made inappropriate advances despite my clear refusal. He even threatened self-harm if I pursued a divorce. This ordeal made me confront a painful realization. I was in an abusive relationship. I urge everyone to educate themselves on the signs of abuse. It was something I had overlooked for years. My husband's tactics were covert, involving psychological abuse, manipulation, gaslighting, guilt-tripping, blame-shifting, and emotional blackmail. These actions, none overtly aggressive or malicious, had gradually conditioned me to be a submissive partner, always prioritizing his needs at the expense of my own. I had rationalized his behavior for too long, naive to its true nature. His emotional affair and proposal for an open marriage were merely extensions of this long-standing pattern of control. As I attempted to distance myself, his manipulative tactics intensified. Recognizing these patterns was a breakthrough, but dismantling years of conditioning was an exhausting and disheartening battle. Earlier today, I enlisted the support of a friend to confront this situation decisively. We gathered together, and I informed my husband that our relationship was unequivocally over, presenting him with the divorce papers. Despite the gravity of the moment, which was undoubtedly one of the most challenging actions of my life, he eventually accepted the situation. Amidst the emotional turmoil, he reminisced about our plans for a family and shared memories, questioning if it had all been in vain. Despite his evident heartbreak and frustration, he signed the papers and returned to his parents' home. The road ahead remains daunting as we navigate the separation of our assets and decide the fate of our shared home. Despite everything, he still suggests we attend marriage counseling, but for the first time in months, I feel genuinely free. The past few hours have been a whirlwind of tears, celebration, and incredibly restful sleep. I owe a tremendous debt of gratitude to you all, as my initial post served as the crucial wake-up call that propelled me to this newfound liberation. Thank you immensely. Sending lots of love to everyone. Comments. From Phi, Honest, 7305. He reminded me of the family we planned and our cherished memories. Was it all for nothing? Apparently, yes. His heartbreak doesn't change that he's a special kind of inconsiderate person. After his infidelity, it's audacious how he tries to evoke sympathy. He truly seems unbearable. Congrats on your freedom. Absolutely. The hypocrisy is astounding, the nerve of him. And what's worse, he's quite charming, deceiving everyone around him, myself included. Many from our circle, fully aware of his actions, still regard him as a decent man who merely lost his way temporarily. It's difficult to accept that those we love can also be deeply flawed. From Any Decision, 470. You've endured a long, arduous journey, and there's still more to overcome, but you're now prioritizing your well-being and happiness. That's commendable. Continue to focus on self-care, ensure your safety, and take the time to heal. By doing so, you'll strengthen yourself, ready to find and recognize genuine love. Wishing you a joyous future. You can do this. Thank you, I'm hopeful. While I'd like to believe the worst is behind me, this experience has taught me to brace for challenges. But from now on, my needs come first. I am worthy of love and happiness, and I'm determined to fight for it. Now let's turn the page to the next chapter. Story 2. During a revealing conversation one drunken night, our best friends confessed they are swingers. This made me uncomfortable, though my husband appeared intrigued. He thinks I was dismissive towards his friends over the weekend, but I felt they were crossing a line. My straightforwardness may have come off as harsh, but I was merely being honest. My husband and I have been together for 13 years, and we're both in our early 40s with 2 wonderful preteen children. We met in college, and he's the only partner I've ever had. We've built a lovely life together. Last week, one of my husband's childhood friends, John, and his wife, Leah, visited us with their kids. I've known them for years. They visit every summer, and we often vacation together. Our children are around the same age and get along well. One Saturday night after the kids were asleep, Leah and John suggested we relax in our hot tub and enjoy some drinks. I'm more of a social drinker, merely sipping some wine, while the others indulged more heavily. The conversation soon turned to intimacy. Leah shared how their sexual relationship had ebbed while their kids were young, but had recently reignited as the kids grew older. John then revealed that they had been exploring the swinger lifestyle and described their positive experiences. My husband, slightly inebriated, boasted that we had never lost our spark. I listened, feeling increasingly uncomfortable. Leah, probing further, asked if we had ever considered swinging or an open relationship, given our young start as a couple. While my husband had previous relationships, I had never been with another man. Leah inquired if I felt I had missed out. I responded that it felt like winning the lottery with my husband. Regretting not making wrong choices seemed foolish. Then, John turned to my husband, questioning if he'd ever contemplated swinging or being with others. He elaborated on how swinging had spiced up their marriage. My husband, maintaining politeness, listened intently and inquired about their entry into swinging, how they meet other couples, and how they handle jealousy. Leah eventually directed the question at me, asking if I'd consider swinging. Her question made me extremely uncomfortable. I expressed my desire to end the conversation, stating unequivocally that the thought of another man touching me was unimaginable, and I would likely leave my husband if he pursued such a path. Leah asked why, and I explained that to me, such interactions would feel like cheating, even if my husband consented. His love was sufficient, and I had no desire for attention from other men. The conversation ended abruptly as Leah fell silent and John swiftly changed the subject. We managed to carry on without revisiting this topic for the remainder of their stay. Once they had left, my husband expressed his belief that I had been overly judgmental towards Leah and John's lifestyle. He suggested I should have been more accommodating and not equated swinging with cheating or implied that Leah was seeking attention from other men. I stood firm, explaining that I was uncomfortable with them imposing their lifestyle on us. Was I being rude about their swinger lifestyle? In my view, everyone should respect personal boundaries, but I was particularly upset by John suggesting to my husband the idea of sleeping with other women, and Leah insinuating that my satisfaction might be lacking because I hadn't been with multiple partners. Furthermore, I felt that my husband should have redirected the conversation away from such personal topics rather than encouraging more details and stories from John. Update, August 13th, 2024. Thank you for all the responses. They've offered me various perspectives. Last night, I spoke with my husband, Mike, about how unsettled I still felt from the weekend's discussion. I questioned why he wasn't upset by Leah's implication that I should regret not having more sexual partners and why such a notion didn't repel him. He replied that disagreeing with someone's lifestyle doesn't justify condemning their choices. He acknowledged that while I was right to end the discussion, labeling their actions as cheating or attention-seeking wasn't fair. He suggested that I might not fully understand the circumstances that led them to embrace swinging. Pressing further, he revealed that Leah and John had been struggling last year, feeling a growing distance between them. Leah introduced the idea of an open relationship, which John initially resisted. However, they concluded that a breakup would be financially detrimental and even more disruptive for their children. John then suggested they explore swinging to ensure transparency and avoid secrecy in their actions. Mike explained that this arrangement seemed to have rejuvenated their connection, with Leah appearing happier and more engaged in their relationship since then. Mike also noted that Leah's curiosity about me stemmed from the fact that I had never been romantically involved with anyone else. He expressed his disappointment over how I had abruptly ended the discussion, concerned that John might feel offended, equating Leah's suggestion to cheating. This revelation prompted me to inquire further about how Mike was privy to such intimate details. He disclosed that John had been confiding in him since last year, but hadn't shared it with me, respecting their privacy and unsure if they were ready to divulge such personal matters. Reflecting on that evening after the children were asleep, John, Leah, and Mike enjoyed drinks, with Mike playfully encouraging me to try his vodka concoction. Knowing my low tolerance, I opted to stick with wine. Leah then suggested we all enjoy the pleasant weather outside on the patio. As Mike prepared the hot tub, Leah and John slipped into it in their underwear, followed by Mike. They urged me to join in a similar manner, but I remained clothed in my t-shirt, although it wasn't unusual as I'd seen them in swimwear before. It was then that they broached the topic of swinging. John and Mike discussed its benefits enthusiastically, while Leah attempted to persuade me to consider the possibilities of being with other men. Many of you pointed out that they might have been attempting to recruit us into their lifestyle. What compounded my concerns was that Mike was aware of their intentions, yet still encouraged me to drink more and suggested I undress before joining them in the tub. I confronted Mike, asking if the aim of the night was to initiate us into swinging. He initially dismissed the idea with a smile, but his demeanor betrayed his dishonesty. Upon pressing him, he confessed that Leah had broached the subject when planning their visit, and he had laughed it off, thinking she was joking. At that moment, my frustration reached a boiling point. Leah had directly inquired about sleeping with my husband, a conversation he never thought to mention. I had been the gracious host all weekend to a woman who, I strongly suspect, was not joking when she propositioned my husband. My anger was palpable, and I ended up sleeping on the sofa that night. Mike repeatedly apologized, claiming he hadn't wanted to expose Leah and John's private life to me, suggesting it was their secret to share. However, I found Mike's own behavior deeply troubling. He had attempted to coax me into undressing and drinking more in front of them, which felt like a breach of my trust. Now, I'm left questioning everything about our interactions. It's clear that I can no longer be around Leah and John, but more painfully, I feel deeply betrayed by Mike's actions. The hurt runs deep, and I am uncertain about our future and what my next steps should be.